Hello and welcome. We will be discussing today a new chapter that is about the biomolecules or first part of biomolecules. In this session, what I will be looking at or discussing is about a brief introduction of certain kinds of biomolecules that is present in us or that makes us, and about different biomolecules which are very important for our day-to-day life, including inorganic as well as organic molecules. So, when the term used biomolecules, what does it mean? Why we call it as biomolecules? Of course, it is the substances or elements or molecules that is present in the living world or that makes the living organism. So, if we are looking at or talking about the structural and functional unit of all organisms, what is it? It is the cell. Now, if you go deep into the cell or keep on observing the cell organelles or cell in detail, what we find is that there are different kinds of molecules which are involved to make the cell complete, or which are involved in the structure of the cell. Okay? And when you look at those structure of cell, what you generally observe or find out that they are made up of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, to some extent nitrogen as well, and other elements. So in this way, if you look at or if you start elemental analysis of any of the living tissue or living cell or living organism, we obtain a list of elements like this. And when we find that how these reactions and other things are associated, what we observe is that these combinedly function by involving themselves in specific reactions. And what is this reaction is called as? Obviously, these reactions are your biochemical reactions. Isn't it? These reactions are biochemical reactions. So, many molecules and elements participate in biochemical reactions. And living organisms obtain a variety of molecules and elements from the environment. This is how they grow. This is how you grow. And use them for synthesis of vital compounds that is required to carry out the day-to-day functions of the life or body. So these chemical substances what we are talking about are either organic in nature or inorganic in nature. Inorganic substances will include things like water, isn't it? Things like definitely water, minerals. Water and minerals will be part of it, or mineral salts. While organic substances or compounds will definitely include things like carbohydrates, proteins, fats or lipids, vitamins, and when you, or let's say enzymes, hormones, and so on. So when you analyze all these substances, what you find that these basically contain the atoms of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and maybe some other compound, elements, but these are the ones which are very commonly found. Formation of bond between these carbon, hydrogen, carbon, oxygen leads to the formation of simple to complex compounds which are known as organic compounds. Isn't it? So before going to discuss or start discussing on one of the inorganic substance which is useful to us or very useful, that is water, let's have a look at this particular video to have an understanding of where we stand and what we are exactly. You can look at from the quarks atom and the core has started, then the electrons and protons, they make up the molecule or atoms, and then the molecule, and all these atoms will form molecules, molecules will form a DNA molecule along with histone proteins will make the chromosome, then along with the RNA and other structures make the nucleus, then the cell organs, and then the animal cell. So one drop of water can have so many animal cells in it. I don't want to take you through, to the outer space. But this is a power of 10 that has been shown in this video. What it shows is that all living organisms or anything that you find in the environment is what? Made up of elements. Okay? And there is space inside us, there is space outside us. But that is a different level of understanding and discussion. I don't want to go into that. But what I mean to say is that we are made up of definitely certain compounds and elements, and their interaction is what makes us or makes the whole living organism. So let's look at the second aspect of, or second, continuing our discussion, let's look at one of the inorganic substances in this session, which is water. If you look at water, in basic structure or in basic form, it is a liquid form at normal room temperature, if I consider it to be around 20 to 25 degrees centigrade. Okay. Water is considered as the most important liquid of all forms of life, because without this there won't be any life form. The essentiality of water of living system is quite evident, as we can find almost like 60 to 70%, 75% to 80%, close to that, or 70 to 90% is what a living cell, or 90% of it is what a living cell is made up of, that is water. So water usually makes up 55 to 78% of human body. 55 to 78% is what is seen in human body. And in nature, it exists in all three forms. That is gaseous, liquid, and solid. Water vapor, water, and ice. Water is a chemical substance again, and its structure, as you look at here, is, or its chemical formula is H2O, two hydrogen molecules and one oxygen molecule. Two hydrogen molecules, one oxygen molecule. What makes it water? And they are combined, or they are formed by a covalent bonding system, covalent bond between them, and they form at an angle of 105 degrees in between them. So one oxygen molecule and two hydrogen molecule. At room temperature, it is nearly colorless, tasteless, and odorless. So colorless, tasteless, and odorless. Then what about some kind of smell that you get from water sometimes? That is because of different types of things that might be added to it or present in it. So let's see some of the important properties of water and their relation to life. Compared to other fluids, water is the most efficient solvent. It is the most polar solvent. Sorry. Why it is a polar solvent? That's because although it has got two hydrogen molecules which are net positively charged ions and oxygen molecule which has got net negative charge, but still these constitute a partial positive and partial negative charge in them. So they have a partial positive and a partial negative charge in them. And this is what makes them possible, or this is what makes it possible for bonding. For bonding. So because of this, the molecules remain attached to each other, are bound to one another, and the bonds present between molecules are known as hydrogen bonds. So if you look at the next diagram, you will understand that when you look at this is one water molecule, this is one water molecule, and because of a partial positive and partial negatively charge associated with them, they have hydrogen bonding in between them, and this makes all water molecules attached to each other. And sometimes we call this as the cohesive unit or force. So there is a cohesive force of bonding between them. And that's the reason why it appears as a liquid. Right? And due to polarity, only water acts as an efficient solvent, and molecules of water get arranged around positive and negative ions and include them within this HOH, bonding. So because of this polarity, it is possible for water to soluble many compounds. So many compounds are able to get dissolved in water because of this. So what the structure shows is that there is oxygen molecule, hydrogen and hydrogen molecule, right? And the distance or the bond is exactly 104.45 degrees. And the distance between hydrogen and oxygen is 95.84 picometer. So 1 picometer is equal to 10 to the power minus 12 meter. 10 to the power minus 12 meter. Okay. Besides, what else? Water has high specific heat and latent heat. What does this mean? Let's look at first high specific heat. What is specific heat at first? Let's try to understand. Specific heat is the quantity of heat needed to raise the temperature of a unit mass of material to 1 degree centigrade. So what it says? High specific heat, the definition says it is the quantity of heat required to raise 1 unit of the 1 unit mass of the material, 1 unit let's say mass of the material to 1 degree centigrade. Okay, so it is the specific amount of heat that is required. Since it has high specific heat, that's the reason why it can remain cool or constant for a longer period of time, and that is one of the reasons why organisms can survive in water. The best example, if you take a metal pot and put water in that, it is a metal pot. You find the metal pot gets heated fast, but not the water. Not the water. Water remains almost slightly warm, but metal plate or metal vessel gets heated very fast. And similarly, the latent heat, the definition of latent heat is the energy released or absorbed by a body during a constant temperature process. So latent heat is also high. So it does not release temperature fast. So it's a slow process. And that's the reason why you find your lakes and ponds does not freeze. They don't freeze, and because of that animals can survive in that. Although the temperature outside is very less, still water does not freeze immediately or fast. Okay, and as I said, the cohesive force among water is very high. This force holds them together, and this property plays an important role in the process of ascent of sap in plants because of the cohesive nature of the water. Similarly, the density of water is very high at 4 degrees centigrade. At 4 degrees centigrade, and this also is true with the viscosity of water. And this results in and this allows the planktons to grow properly without feeling the mechanical shock in water. So water will get moved, or water will flow in one certain wave manner. So mechanical shock is reduced. Mechanical shock is reduced. So organisms can flow or float freely without getting the shock. Besides, water also has high capacity to conduct heat. What does this mean? Because of this, temperature is equally distributed throughout the body. Temperature is equally distributed throughout the body. And water also plays an important role in three-dimensional form of macromolecules like protein, nucleic acids. And this is evident when you do not give water to a plant, it will drop down. But the moment you put water, it will become straight and turgid. It becomes straight and turgid. And this is how, or this is why water is very important. Plus, water can react. When you hydrolyze water, it gives hydrogen ion and hydroxyl ion, and they can react or can provide reactant for many reactions. So this is how water is useful for us, or water is required for living organisms. I hope you have understood the concept or the meaning that is required to understand about water. Thank you.